Hello, I'm Paul.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome to the Film Busters podcast. The film show with no filters, no prisoners taken, loads of disagreements, but one hell of a love for cinema.
If you want to hear three friends ridiculing each other for an hour or so regarding their taste in films, then you have come to the right place.
In each episode, one of the team picks a film for us to discuss. It could be anything from a recent cinema release to an all-time classic.
So, strap in and get ready to get mad or get vindicated as we guide you through the murky world of being a film geek.
If you like what you hear, you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram using @FilmbustersPod. You can also find each of our individual accounts. I'm at Filmbusters Paul.
I'm at Filmbusters Adam.
And I'm at Filmbusters Ben.
If you want to use your eyes instead of your ears, you can also visit the website at filmbusters.pod.co.uk.
And if busting makes you feel good, you can also support us at patreon.com/filmbusters for exclusive content.
Alright, can we just get on with this now, please?
I thought it'd be interesting to speak about films that have changed since we first watched it, or we have changed our opinion since we first watched the film. The reason for mentioning this will become clear later on, but I did have a conversation with a student who's not taking film studies. I'm annoyed he's not. He should be taking it, but he's not. And he was talking about Tenet. And he was saying how amazing this film is. And I said, well, I've only watched it once at the cinema, and I didn't rate it. And he said, Sir, you have to watch again. This is essential. You have to watch this film again, and I'll speak to you about it. When you watch it again. Do I really want to go through this? To cut a long story short, I haven't watched it yet, but I will, because I made this commitment to the student. I said, and he's actually made a commitment to me, because I said, right, here's a film that I want you to watch. Now, you've told me that you didn't like this sort of style of film. This is one that you will like. Okay, so you're sort of saying, you do this if I do that, sort of thing. So he is going to do that, and it's going to be for next week. So I'm committing myself to watching Tenet again, because perhaps I might have been a little bit too judgmental when I first watched it, and I'm willing to give it another go.
I will say to you, Jamie, on a rewatch, it is better. I think you don't expect as much, and then you know the story, and it kind of works better.
I was just wondering if this is something that you've had in films yourself, where you have sort of written off a film, perhaps the first time, or it didn't strike a chord with you the first time, and perhaps over a period of time has passed, and you're more mature as a viewer, perhaps a little bit more cinema-literate or whatever, and it's struck a completely different chord with you, when you've watched it that second time, that rewatch, that's all special rewatch.
I think rewatch is a massive thing for me. I think they're the things that determine exactly how you really feel about a film, especially if something like resonates with you, or you feel like there's something else there and it's like playing in the back of your head. The second watch is always going to be the best. And my most recent one is Joker Folie à Deux, because there was so much pressure and expectation on that film for me that going into it, I didn't know what to expect. I had my ideas of what was going to happen, but it just it screwed my head a little bit, that I didn't know really how to feel about it. So, and it niggled with me, and I just needed to go back to it. And 100%, that second watch was my true feelings came out then, because I could just relax into it. And I think that's a big thing. Relaxing into a film, knowing what you're expecting, is always the best way to watch a film sometimes. Not all the time, but most of the time.
Some films, it's that first one is the biggest watch, that especially when there's certain reveals. Like, you can never go back and watch something for the first time again where there's particular twists, though. So that first reaction sometimes can take precedent over subsequent ones, because especially when you get jaded to a certain genre or a certain style of filmmaking, revisiting it could lead you to be more critical than actually it deserves, because what it did the first time around, it did very, very effectively. My one is not the gap between rewatches was not very big. Probably similar to yours, Paul. But it was way back, about 20 years ago, maybe 25. I watched Natural Born Killers, Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers, and hated it. couldn't keep up with it. Chaotic, messy. What a vomit-inducing experience of a film I thought it was. It's like, some indulgence. This is ridiculous. It means nothing. Means nothing. Horrible. For some reason, had the itch to throw it on again a week later. Maybe because I'd bought it. So it was like, well, I own it. Let's see. And instantly fell in love with it, because it was like, I see there's keys that I needed to unlock this film. There's so much going on in the visuals, and I know that the Contrarians, our friends the Contrarians, criticise this and say that they don't really like Natural Born Killers, and they say that it's a very showy, gaudy affair, and using coloured lenses and whatnot to reflect certain emotional states is stupid. It's not. It's great. I very, very much appreciated like unlocking every scene in Natural Born Killers. Kind of a precursor to me enjoying David Lynch, because it is by no means David Lynch levels of unlockability, but after I'd experienced the film, knew what I was going into, as you say, Paul, second time round I was able to sit comfortably with it and actually try and unlock it more. And I love that Natural Born Killers still to this day now, in a way that I never thought I would have based on that first viewing.
Nice.
Interesting.
What about Dear Adam?
Can't stand it.
The first example that comes to my head is not one I watched and loved again afterwards. It's one I used to love, and I watched it and how I hate it. And it's the opposite way around. And I was saying, I think this is probably the one of nostalgia coming back into Killing You. But the film Kangaroo Jack, I used to love it as a kid. I actually used to love it.
Kangaroo Jack reference.
And me and my mate, when we were in the whole house, we was like, oh, we need to rewatch this film. It's been so long. We both used to love it. We watched 10 minutes of it and we were like, this is probably the worst film that's ever been made. And we had to turn it off. And now the whole memories of that film being good is just out the window.
Oh, Adam. You should never go back to those childhood films.
I know, but I thought it would be one that holds up. I thought it would have something in it.
It didn't even hold up for nostalgia reasons.
Not even for like 20 minutes.
Oh.
It's just like the CGI, everything was just awful.
They say you can't go
Sad
home
times.
again. Dear me. What do you think about that one, Jamie?
Well, yeah, I mean, failed nostalgia. I mean, for me, nostalgia will always work. I'll always go, if there's something that really was special for me when I was young, I don't think I could ruin it by watching it again, because...
No, there is times, I think, when it goes too far.
You have to think about yourself as a younger you when you watched it, rather than being I'm now an adult. You don't need to look at it through the adult lens.
Yeah,
you should think about how you felt watching it as a child.
Yes, that is true. That's also why I feel weird about watching films now that are clearly aimed at kids, even if it was kids of the 80s, and like giving it a score or a review, because I'm like, this ain't for me now at this time of my life. So how can I really give this a fair review? I can't. By the way, listeners, Jamie's wearing a Baccarat Blind hoodie.
Look at that.
Camera just panned out and we could see it.
And by the way, Jamie's here, everyone.
Yes.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's been a long time coming. Guess what, Jamie? I work with someone. He may be listening to this one because he's got a habit of listening to you. He's sporadically been picking episodes from our back catalogue to listen to that he very much has enjoyed. And just by pure chance, he's listened to about 5 or 6 episodes. 3 of them have been ones you've guessed in on. The Vanishing, Aliens, and what was the other one? Misery.
Oh.
So you're a magnet for this guy. He thinks you're a buster. He thinks you're the Ernie Hudson of the Ghostbusters.
Is there Robocop and Straight Story? They're the only other ones he hasn't completed on his bingo card.
Burn After Reading.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't on for Straight Story. That was just a recommendation.
Was
That's
it?
right.
Oh, for some reason, I remember you being there.
He was on... there's one more that we're overlooking. There's one we're overlooking here. I think you've been on 6. I think this is your 6th appearance. Burn After Reading, The Vanishing, Aliens, Robocop, Blair Witch Now. Spoiler alert, everyone knows they clicked on the title. There's one more, I'm sure there's one more. Never mind. Might come to us. Anyway,
how about a smooth segue into first impressions? Because this is why I wanted to speak about this topic, because if I can indulge and pull on a bit of patron power here, if you don't mind.
Yes, please do.
Can I go first with the first impressions, but also last? There's a reason for that. So basically, my first impression will be when I first watched it.
Okay.
Right. Rather than my first impression of watching it this time, if you know what I mean.
This is your episode, baby. You do what you want.
Right. So, my first impressions for this film. Well, so 99, I was studying film at university then, but for some reason I didn't watch it at the cinema. I was fully aware of it. I was fully immersed in it, and I do remember, the internet was a fabulous new technology then. So I do remember looking at the viral marketing campaign, which was one of the reasons it was so successful. But I don't remember why I didn't go to see it at cinema. It could be that I wasn't really that bothered with, found footage as a concept. I don't think, maybe I wasn't sort of grabbed by it as a film. But I missed the cinema run, and if I could just go back in time, if I could just get that time machine, and go back in time, that's one film that I would really like to have watched at the cinema, but I didn't. So my first viewing was on small screen, but having said that, the aspects of the film that work better on a small screen anyway, 4:3 aspect ratio, and you can still immerse yourself in the sound. To be honest, I was bitterly disappointed with it. I mean, I did not find it scary at all.
Mm-hmm. I was not expecting all this, by the way.
Yeah, I thought it might surprise you. I did not find it scary at all, and I was bitterly disappointed. In fact, I thought it was just incredibly overrated. I mean, why is there this big buzz over this film? Why did this film make so much money? I don't get it. And so I haven't watched it again since it came up in conversation, and I know that all my Movie Duel co-hosts love it. There's common conversation. I've heard you guys speak about it. I've heard Ben. I've definitely heard you speak about it on a podcast. I think it might have been was it the Alien Effect?
It's possible,
anyway,
yeah.
But you definitely spoke about it, and I thought, well, why don't I go back to my very first podcast appearance on yours, where I didn't have a film that I was invested in, Burn After Reading. There's one I thought, well, I did sort of write it off the first time I watched it, but I'm willing to give it another shot. And that second shot really cemented, my opinion of the film, which was completely different to my first impression. So, will this be the same for this film? I'm not telling you just yet.
Interesting. So, just to clarify, when you suggested this for us to cover, you'd only seen it once before?
Correct.
Okay.
Beautiful.
That's very interesting, because I did not know that. I didn't know that was the context. I thought you were bringing it because you were like, I love it, 10 out of 10, and this is why. I thought that's what we were going to get.
Yeah, I've done that so often. Now I'm thinking, no, let's shake it up a bit.
That's very,
Definitely
very interesting.
shook it up a bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's
absolutely. I love this.
All right, and Jamie, what order do you want from us?
Let's go Film Busters order.
Oh,
P-A-B.
Exciting. Pab. Okay. So, yeah, this is going to be very interesting, because I think, like, the different ways, I mean, Jamie's just said it already, the different ways that, like, you experience this film is how it impacted you. So, like, I watched this, I imagine, like, 2000, 2001, because it must have been after the cinema release. I would have been 10 or 11. And I have a vivid memory. I watched it with my nan, and I remember vividly, like, sitting almost on her lap, as close as I could be to her, holding her hand, incredibly sweaty, and, like, just absolutely terrified. But I know for a fact that, like, the intricate, like, understanding of what was happening at the end was totally lost on me at the time. And I know as well that I wouldn't have been, like, I would have been absent for the whole, like, cultural impact the film would have had, because I was just too young. So, but all that kind of stuff, it kind of filtered in a few years after that, so I kind of learned stuff. And it's a fascinating one. Like I said, it is 100% a time capsule of what good advertising can do for a film, like the website, the missing people posters, the fact that they were reported missing on like IMDb, for example, and it's like, but I think it's just one of those films that spurs you into wanting to like get out and make a film yourself. Like the idea of having these three like unknown actors and giving them like a brief of what they're about to tackle, but like fabricate a whole mythology, but neglect to actually tell the actors it's even real, like plant actors who the actors encounter, and once again they think they're real people in this place. It's just madness. And then like just give these actors cameras and only be directing them from afar with walkie-talkies. It's like, when has this ever been done before? It's easy to see how these three got like wrapped up in this film to the point of like blurring the lines between what's real or not. I went on an escape room recently and they made it so immersive that you turn up to a place and there's no one there, there's no person hosting it, and you just kind of start it, and then it turns into this serial killer chasing you. And I was like, am I in a real thing right now? Because I'm not sure. The lines were blurred because there's no one guiding me through this, and it just kind of it like gives you that kind of energy. And I think the acting in this is like on point for the most part. There's one piece from Mike that really doesn't work for me, but we can talk about it. But especially from Heather, the acting is wonderful, and like being so close to this somewhat like reality of what they're going through, it just kind of helps that happen. And even to the point of like her not knowing what to expect going down to that basement and having to do another take and stuff like that. It's fantastic. It's a terrifying film. I made sure I watched it at night, heightened the isolation myself. It's so solid. Still works on every level, especially with headphones on. Like hearing all those children's voices surrounding you in that tent, and you can hear like the soundscape's great. And like something like this is just the phenomenon of it. It would never be done, never be seen again. It's just hit that zeitgeist at the perfect age of like online media to work wonders with, and that's my first impressions.
Very good.
Yeah. So I've only seen this film once before, and it was a while back. So I kind of remember bits of it, but I don't obviously remember all of it. But you're right. It's almost like a lightning in a bottle of like how it feels to be realistic while you know the kind of acting. But did you say in that, Paul, like the actors, the people directing it set up for the actors, so they didn't know what was going on?
Yeah.
Okay, because that changes it all. I thought the people who were acting in it were also directing it. I thought it was one of those like, well, they were just doing everything. It was only them. They were going out and filming it. So to not know that that adds a little bit, another level actually. I would like to go back and watch it with that in mind, because when you see it you think, oh, they're acting it, but they could actually be terrified. I thought they were just actually half decent actors. They're incredibly annoying in places, don't get me wrong.
It was practically all improvised.
Yeah, I get the fact it's improvised, but like it's like when they're actually scared, I thought they were just acting that but not actually. So yeah, I thought they were just like the people directing it were also the people acting in it. I will say again, you did it the opposite of me, Paul. You sat at night and watched it with headphones on. I watched it this morning while I was eating my breakfast because I ran out of time to try and watch the film. I was trying to get it in, but I just couldn't get it in. And I think that does help a lot with the feeling of this film, because there is nothing on screen for you to be scared of. Everything is how the film makes you feel, and that has such a big bearing on, I think, what you get out of the film. Again, I think I'll definitely give it a rewatch soon in a proper environment. But and it also goes to show you that good horror films don't actually need to rely on jump scares. They don't really need to rely on like tense music. It's just simple, to the point. I like it, but yeah, I think I need to rewatch it under better circumstances. I do think I shot myself in the foot there, the way I watched it.
Well, you certainly did. It's not a breakfast watch. I don't think a breakfast watch is the recommended way to go.
It's better than me coming in and not watched it.
Well, talking about watching it, the first time I watched it, it was one of the first DVDs I ever had. Back in 99, I got this, I got You've Got Mail, and I believe I had Austin Powers Gold Member. I think they were the first 3 DVDs I ever owned. And back then I didn't have a DVD player, but I had a Windows 95 machine, or maybe it was Windows 98. And that was how I watched the Blair Witch Project in my room, dead of night. Put the disc in, and it was transformative. I was terrified in a way that I hadn't been since watching Halloween for the first time. So chilled, so shook up that the next day, all day, it must have been school holidays because I don't remember going to school. I played it all day, on loop all day, and it felt like it turned into on loop all summer because I was addicted to the Blair Witch Project. I think the Blair Witch Project is possibly one of the films I've seen the most in my entire life. It probably is because it's got such a nippy runtime, but it was so addictive to me, and I feel like at that time in my life they became like friends to me. I had friends, but they became like friends. Mike particularly, I really remember in 1999 wishing Mike was my friend and wishing that I knew him. I very much liked Mike's energy, but it was because they were so real, because as you said, you know, largely improvised. They are actors, but they are playing themselves, and it felt so genuine. And that's what caught me so much, was it was both terrifying and addictive because it felt so real. And I'd never seen anything like that. I'd never seen anything so real put on screen. And I thought it's taken years and years and years to understand why it's still so effective for me, because I appreciate that 25 years have passed and we're living in a completely new age of filmmaking where everyone can go out with mobile phones and everyone can film it, and its video is right there immediately, and people just couldn't really get in that situation now because of various things like GPS and whatnot. But what was so terrifying was this idea back then that these people, these normal people, could go out with the best of intentions making a film, take their tech, their new age tech, because 16mm film and high 8 digital cameras, a transitional period in tech, take that out into the woods, into nature, into, you know, historical earth, and be haunted and hunted by something, is something that is still terrifying to this day. It's why The Ring was so effective as well. It was like the use of tech being the channel and the vehicle of horror. I cannot capture in this little summary why I love this film so much. We're going to need all the time we got in this episode to talk backwards and forwards. But the one thing that I want to say now, I was going to leave it to the end, but I want to say now, is, Jamie, you have inadvertently changed my top 10 films of all time. And it's not that Blair Witch is now in my top 10 films of all time. I was watching this again recently, and I was saying, this is just perfect in every way, not only on screen, but everything that surrounded it, everything that went on and into the making of it. How can this not be in my top 10? I adore it so much. Let me look at this top 10. Number 10, The Irishman. Completely, like, just how insanely opposite can two films be? A world where the Blair Witch Project exists and The Irishman exists. They're so completely opposite. How can you say one is better than the other? But I can. Blair Witch Project is better than The Irishman. But then if that's the case, then a few other films that I consider better than The Blair Witch have to be higher up. And there's only two films. I've recalibrated my top 100, but there's only two films that I worked out were better than The Blair Witch Project. One was Jaws and one was Halloween. And because of that, I had to work out what goes in as my new number 10. So my new number 10 is Halloween, followed by Jaws, followed by The Blair Witch Project. But all that to say that this is, apart from something which I have an intense connection to, which is Halloween, arguably the greatest horror film of all time, even to this day. And let's go ahead.
Love it.
Well, you mentioned Halloween. Halloween was, prior to the Blair Witch Project, the most successful independent horror film of all time, and I believe the Blair Witch Project was the film to pass that.
Yeah,
on a budget of it's between 35 and 60,000. What do you think it earned at the worldwide box office?
Oh my God!
From that,
30 million, 40 million.
Just add another 200 to that.
200.
It earned 248 million.
248 million.
Jeez.
Absolutely incredible. And you know those guys that, I mean, they were just like scrappy guys, as in the filmmakers, putting that together on that shoestring budget, not really anticipating much off the back of it. And they went to Sundance after they had the film, and as they saw it playing and saw people queuing up for it, they were like, we cannot accept any, if anyone wants to buy this, we cannot accept anything less than $1 million. Whereas before that, they were going in there like, well, if anyone makes us an offer, this is great. And it was like, we cannot take less than $1 million.
How much do they get for it?
1.1 million. Jamie, you know a lot, obviously know a lot about this production and whatnot. What can you tell us about the production of the Blair Witch?
Okay, so if I can just
oh yeah, you're new. Yes.
My new first impressions.
Sorry, of course.
Okay, so there's a period of time of obviously passed since I watched it that first time, and things like being a parent, and also having the experience of getting lost somewhere. So I got lost in a park. And it's a big area. It's called Jubilee Park, and I was with my youngest daughter, who's, as you know, who's autistic, so she's not going to be able to help me on. Dad, where have you gone wrong? I was with her, and we just got off track, and I started to panic after about 15 minutes or so, where I was just turning. I have absolutely fuck all idea where I am. Yeah. And it's getting darker at that point. I'm with my daughter, who's not going to be able to help me at all. But she's completely dependent on me, and I have no idea where I am. And that sort of experience really sort of shook me up. I eventually managed to find my way out, and that was on a very sort of small scale of what happens in this film. So I think that really helped the sort of processing and responding to it this time. But also, what really helped this time is I watched it with headphones, and so the sound design in this film is so important, and we will talk about that later on. I think it really sort of pushed up my response to it this time, definitely. I'm still wavering between grades, so what we discussed might have an influence on that. That's all I'm going to say, but it's obviously significantly higher than my first impressions, but I'm not going to tell you how high just yet.
Will you tell us, going into this, what your old score was then, or do you want to keep that secret?
Yeah, I can tell you. I gave it like a two stars.
Wow! My God, you were really bringing something low.
I would really harsh on it. Yeah.
Well, fascinatingly, obviously, I've you know my rating because of what I just said, but I wondered, coming back to this, having probably not watched it for at least 10, 15 years, maybe 10 years, I thought, is there a chance that something's gonna have lost itself in the passage of time? And it just hasn't. It was like, I missed the golden opportunity of my original intention was to watch it with Erin, my eldest daughter, who is a big horror fan. Right. I thought, wouldn't it be great? She knows nothing about it. Yeah. So let's watch this film and see what you think. But I had to watch it by myself. She had homework that evening, but I'm still going to watch it with her. I think I might just. I've got a weekend coming up, and I'll say, let's watch this film. I'll bang up the sound. I'll really amp up the sound. So we've got a good sound system, and so she should be. And let's see if it freaks her out. Jesus Christ, a surround sound for this would be insane. I listen to it with headphones as well, but a full-on surround sound would be haunting.
Yeah.
You've got to work the magic on Erin and basically say that it's actually real. See if you can actually do that.
I think I probably can do that. Yeah, I think I can do that, and I can sort of. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I'll do that because that's another thing about the film. Now, I've watched so many found footage films since, and I've become a fan of the subgenre. That then this is about as authentic looking as you can get for a found footage film. Yeah. It feels. It smells, everything. It feels found. It feels like, this has just been found 1 year later. Yes, this does feel genuine. And so many people at the time were not sure. Is this real? Is this real? Is it? That's one. It was a big sort of mystery about it, wasn't there?
It helps so much that it was like almost like the innovator of this whole found footage stuff, and also the fact that the other found footage films don't take into account is the fact that they've isolated these actors and made them not know themselves what's going to happen. So every altercation they come across feels so real and so genuine, and the fear feels real. And it's like, because they have no idea what to expect or what's around the corner. And I think that's what like heightens the element of that film. It's just, it's really wonderful.
That's why like proposed sequels just, they miss the point entirely, because you're never going to get that fear. The thing is, you're not scared of the Blair Witch. You're scared of the film. You're scared of the experience, what they're going in. Like every time I've watched it, I've never actually been scared of the Blair Witch. You're scared of the circumstances, and the fucking ghost of the thing is the bloody film. That's the ghost. The fact that you never see a witch or never see a villain, you don't have to. You're watching it. You're living the villain. The villain is the fucking film. It's all in your head, which is what's incredible. And I love the fact that, obviously there's lots of moments we could talk about, but I love the fact that the scene where after the children are hitting the sides of the tent and they go rushing out of the tent, and Heather is running and she's screaming, what the fuck is that? She is meant to turn the camera, because they had one of the production guys there on the bank dressed up in white stockings and running alongside them. She was meant to turn the camera, but she didn't. Or Josh, who had the 60mm, was meant to and didn't. And it's so good that they didn't, because it's so much more terrifying. What the hell is getting that reaction out of her? That's scary. The minute you show something, even slightly, I think you break the spell. Because I'm going back to 1999. Jamie, you're a little bit older than me, so you would almost certainly have been probably the same, which is, you're aware that they are trying to market this as real. But even at that age, I was like 13, I was aware that it wasn't. But we all were kind of choosing to go along with it. Like, and the creators were not keeping it a secret. They put a website up, but on the website with all the real stuff, it was like, and here's a link to how we produced the film. Here's behind the scenes footage. So it was kind of hiding in plain sight. But you want to believe. And if you show us anything in that film which breaks the believability, the spell is broken, and it never breaks. It never breaks.
Absolutely. I think it really helps as well, the fact that when you encounter all these people in the town, that they're all kind of have their own story to do with the whole situation. Like there's a serial killer, there's two people who disappear in the woods, there's a woman who's completely fur, and it's like you don't know what to expect. So it's such a muddled idea of what you're going to experience, and then it never gets to it, which is great.
The whole point is that you are given all of these sort of, seeds almost. You're given sort of suggestions, but none of it is answered.
No. And you know that bit. So when they're meeting all those guys in the town, the guys and girls in the town, some of them were plants, but some of them were like normal people. My favourite is the old guy. Do you believe in the Blair Witch? No. No, sir.
So close to the camera.
Yeah. The one who, the only thing they filmed after the fact, the only thing they filmed without the core crew, is an interview with the young guy with a baseball hat, who specifically talks about Rustin Parr making the kids face the corner, because they didn't know how they were actually going to end the film. So they had to shoot their ending, and then they were like, right, we need to go back and film one interview which relates to what you're seeing at the end. But it's seamless.
Yeah. How they're able to pull this together is just absolutely miraculous. When there was nearly 20 hours of footage that was edited down into 80 minutes. It's just it's amazing. This is an experimental guerrilla film. They held interviews 1996. All right, and they said that they just gave them. They said that come along to this audition. You need to be prepared to be. This is an experimental film where we're going to be filming in the woods, and so it's not going to be they were straight up front. This is not going to be a comfortable experience, but and you have to be able to improvise. That's it, and they gave them just this sort of a scenario to improvise to in the interview, and so that the film it's a little bit like Curb Your Enthusiasm. How those episodes are done. Larry David would always give the actors this skeleton outline of what's going to happen in the episode, but the majority of it is going to be responding to a few key things, and it's going to be really requiring a lot of improvisation. But what they did, and I think this is the genius part of it. So they didn't know what they were doing from day to day. The actors were given, I understand, some sort of directions in the canister that they would find.
Yeah.
They would be given directions to it. They'd find it, and inside they would give them notes on how their individual character is going to respond to something. They say, "Oh, you are going to have to argue with Josh today. You are going to intervene with an argument," or they might give them directions of where they're going to hit. They will give them rations as well. And to begin with, the rations were normal, sandwich and a packet of crisps or whatever. But as the film went on, they reduced the rations to the point where I think day 5 or something, they gave them nothing.
Yeah.
Which I think the actors, they would have known, this is coming. They weren't deliberately trying to break them down psychologically or anything like that, I don't think. I mean, they said, what is it? Your safety in this film is paramount, but your comfort isn't.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's great.
So they knew that at certain points of the day, i.e. nighttime, when they're camping, they are going to really, really mess with them.
Yeah.
And so the directors were often in camouflage gear, hiding, just to mess with them. I mean, these things will come out in discussion as we go through. But they worked on the mythology of it. There's a real sense of where the story originates, and that was, so they worked on that. But everything else was pretty much a case of, right, off you go, guys. There's a camera.
Yeah.
We're going to give you a few directions, but it's just let's see how it goes. And you shoot 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
They gave them batteries at key points as well to put in the cameras, because the camera.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know that open audition process where they were like sort of improvising? Do you know why Heather got the role? What she did that impressed them?
She went against type, and she wasn't the question something along the lines of it's like a parole interview, and like
why should you be released?
Like, why should you be released? And she said, I shouldn't be released.
Yeah.
And then she sort of which completely took them aback and
totally went against type.
Yeah, she went against type, and she apparently the directors were quite sort of frightened of her. They weren't expecting. She came up with something quite extreme, and it was originally supposed to be a man.
It was meant to be a man. Well, which I'm very glad of, regardless of her performance, because it doesn't feel. I don't think you get the same experience if you've got 3 guys wandering around the woods. I think there's just, because the thing that's kind of beautiful about the dynamic of the 3 is that there is never a suggestion that they look down on her because she's a woman, which may be because of just the central conceit anyway. If it was originally, well, not written for a man, but if it was meant to be 3 men, if it was like that was never going to be played into it. But they're all equals. Their arguments and their fallings out come from the paranoia and the distrust as they get into the woods. It isn't about who they are. And Heather's transformation from I'm in control, I am the director of this piece, I know where we're going, I know what we're doing, contrasted with her like frenzied, broken, manic performance to the camera at the end, and her screams in that house is like, I mean, that's as good a final girl as you're ever going to fucking get.
That's a good point. She should be considered a final girl.
For my money, I think she is. She's certainly one of the. If you think about final girls and what they normally represent and who they are, I think she is a particularly strong and standout one. It very much helps that she's such an incredible performer, as they all are, and the fact that they were so comfortable with one another, having none of them known each other before they began that, and I think it's kind of gallows humor. Once you start making that kind of film, there is 50% performance and 50% where we actually are lugging these bags for hours through the woods. It is raining. We are wet. We are miserable. We are tired. We are scared. Let's channel this into the performance. And it's done insanely well, because it's like, I've tried to do improvisational stuff in the past. I'm obviously not a professional actor, but it's hard to think on your feet if someone throws you something and for it to be convincing. So the fact that they were responding to each other's actions and directions that they didn't know the other ones had been given, like Mike kicking the map into the creek, they didn't know that until that moment on camera. And it's not that nothing was recreated. They didn't say, okay, do that shot again. It was one and done. I think the only thing, apart from the ending, which they had to do a few times because of logistics, I think the only thing is the day when it was pouring with rain, everything was so miserable that day that by the time they got to the campsite, the directors hadn't been able to set it up properly for them. So they put them in a hotel that night and they said, we're going to just go and redo that day. But the next day was super sunny. And they said, this just doesn't look good anymore. It looks so much better with the rain. So they had to sort of hybrid edit things.
Just to get out of the way, I just want to bring up my one part that does not work for me. And I feel like it is because it feels acted. It doesn't feel natural. And that one moment is when Mike is sitting down and rocking, and he's like talking about, oh, I found my cigarettes, and he's like rocking. It doesn't feel natural to me. That's the only moment out of everything. It feels staged. It feels like, look, I'm scared. I'm playing a scared person. And yeah, other than that, that's the only part.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be hard to hit every beat 100% of the time and be convincing when you're acting, right? If they can have you believe in the rest of the time. And there's nothing stranger than the truth. Sometimes you might see something real and go, oh, they're really performing or hamming that up. It's like, well, actually, this is real life, though.
Yeah. It's true.
It's so interesting to think that I honestly thought they all knew about it, and it was just the three of them who like made it as like a project film, and they all know what's going on. I didn't realize they actually put a bit more behind it and hired people in.
Yeah, I mean, the director's involvement, along with a couple of the producers, was entirely sort of. Here's the thing. Originally, they were only hiring these actors to go out there and get what was meant to equate to about 20 minutes maximum of footage, because the film, and I remember seeing it at the time, the film was meant to be a documentary which had talking heads and modern day stuff about these people who had gone missing, and occasionally it was going to cut back to this footage. But by the time they got to the end of this film, they were placed in a really difficult situation, because the two directors were like, well, this is our original vision was not what we've now got from these actors. What we've got is so good, we have to make a call. Do we just release this as the film, or do we stick to our original idea? And after days and days, they were like, no, this has got to stand on its own because it's too good. And it ended up becoming the film without all that other context, which is what I think helped it with its sort of marketing run at that time, because they'd already done so much research and groundwork into, as you say, Jamie, building up the mythology and the rumours around it all.
But because they weren't actually able to look at dailies or anything like that, so they had absolutely no idea really what
they were capturing
from day to day. And some of the most famous scenes, the snotty nose monologue, let's call it, a scene, one of the most iconic moments in the film. Yeah, that was supposed to be a full head shot.
Yeah,
but the way it was caught, it wasn't. But it feels so much more natural that it's not like that. It feels more natural that it's caught to the top half of the head, and because she's broken at that point. Yeah, I know I've jumped ahead a little bit, some shots. You think, how did they manage that? How did he get it? It was just of the moment. And was caught just perfectly then, but they wouldn't have known at the time. So they're trawling through nearly 20 hours, and they're like, okay, let's see if we can sort of, pull a film out of this, and they managed that. It is quite remarkable.
Did any of the actors go on to be in anything famous after this? Because surely that would have propelled them.
No one was super famous. None of them. They did some things, but
in fact, the lead actress. She was she was hounded, vilified by a lot of people for her performance, but partly because she doesn't play necessarily the most likable of characters at times, and she can come across a little bit annoying. But I think a lot of people, she, believe it or not, she was given the Razzie for Worst Actor that year and won
Which is just absolute insanity.
which is crazy. It's a really good performance, but she regretted, I understand, telling the directors to go with their actual real names during the filming.
She's now changed her name.
She's changed her name, because
which is sad. It is sad, but I think, and there was no malice intended from the director or the producers at the time, because they all thought they were just doing something really low budget that was not going to really see much of the light of day. So the other sad thing about the core actors is obviously they aren't professionally trained, but they are the cinematographers of the whole thing. It's their camera work, which you see, but they were all paid something like, I think they were paid $1,500 each for their time, and that's it. They don't have any share in the residuals from the film.
Did they do another film after this and get loads of money off that one?
No, they didn't, because there were complaints about them not wanting to use their names and their likenesses in the film, but because they'd already been signed away to Artisan were like, well, we're going to use this. There's a whole, if you look into it, they don't hold the actors don't hold any ill will to the directors, but they have a lot of ill will for Artisan and the subsequent studio that took over Artisan, because of the way that they've treated them, because they've given out lots of payouts to the directors and the producers involved, but barely anything to them. But they still appear at panels to talk about Blair Witch from time to time. So it's not like they're like, oh, I hated the experience. I think they
must be getting some money from those appearances as well. But yeah,
they must, yeah.
Must do some Comic-Cons and stuff like that, you'd imagine. But they even got asked to lay low after the production. They didn't want to do any press because they were supposed to be dead. They were literally supposed to be dead in real
But see,
life.
that was Artisan. So Artisan told them to do that, and the directors were like, that was a real shame, because there was such a buzz that all the core actors then couldn't appear at things like Sundance and other festivals to relish in that moment, because they'd been told you have to make out like you're not around. Which might sound cool, but
zeitgeist, though, yeah.
It's something that you could only do at that time as well.
Yeah,
the way social media and everything is now, there's just no way you could do that.
No,
even to the point of going to their family members, and they got testimonials from them in the behind the scenes, and they on the website they had of talking about their lives and stuff. It's like, you went that deep to talk with their family, but you don't want the actors to reap the benefits of their actual acting. It's mad.
That does also put a little bit of a tarnish on it all, though.
Not really, because this is label involved. This is studio involvement after the fact. Nothing to do with the filmmakers themselves. That was guerrilla filmmaking. You can't. It's like, does Harvey Weinstein ruin every film that was produced by him for you? In fact,
no. I'm just saying, it's like these people deserve it. Like, they deserve their flowers, and they kind of got nothing from him.
No, they do. I agree. Weinstein infamously didn't get this. Miramax were at Sundance, and Weinstein was like, "I don't get it. We don't want that. Miramax doesn't want that at all." It's like, well, you wouldn't know quality if it smacked you in the face, which hopefully it has many times since.
I got to talking about the filming and how they were doing it themselves. I love the effect of one camera being the sole audio and the other one not. Especially works in that end scene when they're going around the house and you can hear the screaming. You know that she's holding the camera.
Although at that point he's on the camera.
Yeah, and but you hear the audio from a distance of her screaming. It's like, oh, it's so crazy.
It's so otherworldly,
such
because
a great
of that.
effect. Yeah.
And the fact that so much of the footage in the house at the end is that black and white footage. So everything. This is the beauty of it. There is no focus on the fact that we have these kids' handprints all over the walls. Any other film is like linger on it, close up on it. It's just there, and you're moving on. And it's such a chaotic experience after having been in the woods for so long that you're almost like, I don't even want to know if that's what I just saw. That can't be
so
fucking kids' hands, please. Yeah.
And then you have Josh's voice. Ugh.
Yeah. Horrible. And Josh's what in the shirt, in the twigs.
Teeth and hair, apparently it was.
Teeth and hair is what it was.
It was his hair, but I don't know how they got the teeth.
That is a very haunting screen. when she sees that and she screams, that's like that chills you. That is like haunting.
I mean, that is why she is so incredible with it, because she is annoying at times, but that's kind of like the great characterization.
I find the other
that
two
she
of them
built
more
into it.
annoying.
I mean, I actually don't find any of them annoying because I love them so much. They're like my best friends, and I won't have another bad word said about them. I think they're the way they all react at all moments. That's what the beauty of it. The way they all react at all moments feels quite natural. It feels natural for Mike to have got pissed off and kicked the map. It feels natural for Heather to be shrieking, "What the fuck were you doing? That map was useless." That line is burnt into my head. Mike screaming, "That map was useless. That map was useless." Everything. Oh man. What a fucking film.
There's that when Josh disappears as well, he knew nothing about that.
No.
He was just given the little canister of notes, the thing saying, right, you're going to disappear tonight
while they sleep.
You have to wait until they go to sleep, and then you're out of there. And so he goes out to the production, and he's met by some of the rest of the team, and say, "Hi Josh, you're dead. Well done."
He was apparently super relieved.
Then they gave him a nice meal after that.
And the crazy thing as well is they pre-recorded his audio and they played his shouting out on speakers for the other two, and it's like just nuts.
It was meant to be Mike that got pulled. That was the plan, but because in the last couple of days leading up to that moment, him and Heather had been arguing so much, and it was like on the border of being really uncomfortable, they pulled him, which is interesting because I don't know how much of that would have been the characters or how much of that was these two were really getting on each other's nerves. There's an incredible, I have to talk about it because it's just newly released. There's a second sight Blu-ray release that came out a couple of months ago, which I have, and they have an hour and a half of deleted scenes, which essentially is the festival cut that was released to Sundance. It was 2.5 hour run, and it's almost 3 hours, and it's everything from beginning to end. It's all the stuff, a lot of the key stuff that just didn't make it. And it was absolutely the right call to cut it all out because there's a lot more of the stuff that you say, Paul, that sort of like Mike rocking. There's a lot more acty moments, a lot more over the top performances. But what it really made me appreciate was how well edited this was based on the footage that they were receiving, to know exactly when to come into the scene and come out before anything outstayed its welcome or got over the top or was just a little bit overcooked or overdone. Perfectly, because there is a whole very beautiful. There's a whole spiel from Mike at the end when they're about to go to the house before they realise they're going to go to the house, where Mike is basically leaving his last will and testament to his family, and it's a really beautiful moment. But then it's like, this is not authentic though. It doesn't feel real, and there is so much of Josh screaming his head off. Josh comes across slightly more composed in the film that we get, but he was screaming his head off so much to Heather. Heather is walking around with a knife, which we don't often see in Blair Witch, and he several times keeps saying, "Give me the knife, I don't trust you with the knife." And Christ, if they left that in, the film takes on another angle altogether, which is the threat that one of them is going to kill the other one, which you never really feel in this film. No, you never feel it.
That's interesting.
Even though Heather Donahue did think at some points that she'd signed up for a snuff film and that they were going to kill her in the woods at first.
Nuts.
Was that the cut where you got where the sound wasn't right on it as well, Ben? They had to recall it.
Well, I mean, I haven't. I think it's on. If you have surround sound speakers, I think they will send a new disc. But I didn't. There was no issue for me.
Speaking about the sound, then you might as well speak about the sound. Headphones is the way to absolutely do it. It does feel you feel the 3D effect of that sound. And there was moments where oh my god, when you hear Josh in the background shouting on those speakers, I was laying in bed watching it, and when you hear it for the first time, I actually fucking jumped because it came from like behind me, and I was like, oh fuck's sake, that's gonna shit on me, because it just came out of nowhere. But it's so well done, and it's placed so well in the editing that
But
it works really well.
But that was pure coincidence as well, because they just had no idea how well the high 8 tapes, the digital tapes, were going to pick up sound, which is also why they were like, we're only going to use about 20 minutes of this footage because we're probably not going to get good audio. But when they were listening back, they were like, this audio is insane. It's really picking shit up well. They used to make stuff properly back then. I had a little handheld camcorder as well, and the sound on that is better than what you get on these iPhones and Android phones now, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
The scene when they're in the tent and when the tent gets attacked.
That's scariest.
That is terrifying. And it's the on the soundtrack again. You're picking up the crying and then giggling,
giggling, yeah. And there's a weird noise which even now I can't work out what it is, because they did just record kids playing in a garden, but there is a sound in there which sounds like a monster's sort of gurgle kind of sound, which I've never been able to discern what that is, and it plays there, and that's the bit that freaks me out on the back end of all those kids.
Do you need to have had that camping experience to really? I mean, would it make a difference if you had camped out in the night and had a bit of an uncomfortable experience? Because I haven't done that.
I just think you just need to walk through somewhere dark.
I've may have spoken about this on this podcast before, but many years ago, I used to go out to the woods with my friend at the time when we were trying to work on a film that we were working on. And we would go into the woods near our house, walk through the woods for about 10 minutes, which was terrifying, and walk into a field and sort of look out over London. But when we were in this field, standing there smoking and talking about what this film was going to be at like 1, 2 in the morning, we would look back at the woods that we'd have to walk back through, and it was scary and terrifying at that time of night because we were talking about horror stuff. But as time went on, we became convinced that there was some energy there, and it was tangible, and it was very, very tangible. And you laugh, but let me tell you this: we, as part of a housewarming for living together in that area, we bought a bunch of dolls, baby dolls, and we went and strung them up in the woods by day, because we were going to bring because it was a horror themed party, all the people that we'd invited over to the flat, we were going to take out to the woods unprompted in the middle of the night and walk them into this enclosure, and they would see all these babies hanging by string, like the stick figures in Blair Witch. It was inspired by that. And the party didn't go very well. We ended up taking no one out there, so me and him walked out there later that night, and all of the dolls had been cut down. And at that time we were like, oh, that's annoying, a little bit creepy, but yeah, just some idiots come along and just, well, not idiots, someone's just gone, why is there all dolls hanging up, and cut it down. Several months later, when we were out in the field again after walking through those woods, we looked back towards the entrance of the woods, which we would always come in and out of, and we realised that the fucking baby dolls were hanging up again in the trees.
You sure you didn't go back to the wrong place?
This is a true story, and you're laughing about it, but that was not funny. And that level of who's doing that, because it is someone's doing that. It's a human who's doing it. And why are they doing it? To fuck with us. Exactly like Mike and Josh say in this film. Blair Witch or not, someone is fucking with us. We don't want to mess with that. It's scary.
You sure you weren't like a farmer and you just on his land kept fucking around with it?
Well, we were. It was a farmer's land, and there was one time he came down in the combine harvester at like 2 in the morning where it felt like it, and we legged it.
Combine harvester.
It was something. It was something with a big old light on the front of it. But that's what's scary, is the not knowing.
The paranoia.
And that someone is willing to come out there and fuck with you.
Well, I take it like, this is why I hate being in the sea, right? And this is it's because it's that isolation and not knowing what's around you. And that's what I get. I get the same feeling from being in that tent with them. Yeah. And you're isolated in the middle of nowhere, but you also cannot see what's out there either, because you have this obstruction with the tent. Yeah. And the fact, oh my God, the horror of hearing those children's voices, but then you can hear them walking closer or walking past the tent, and it's like, oh my, that is incredible.
And then just tapping the tent like this.
Yes. Scary.
I'm pretty sure there wasn't much acting required for that, for them to be terrified. They would have been genuinely terrified.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
But that's all part of the lightning in a bottle thing, because if you can't recapture that, these are all the things that do make it distinctly and uniquely great, is that total immersion of the cast and putting them behind the cameras and just giving them key notes to follow along the way and still making it terrifying as an end result. You could have had incapable people behind the camera who were pointing at ridiculous things and overperformed the whole thing, and it just wouldn't have worked. But everything seemed to have just lined up perfectly for this.
And again, speaking about that monologue at the end, the iconic one that was misframed, that was her one and only take, and because it was so good, they didn't. Oh, we're going to leave it at that. There's no way you can capture that again. That was, you were in the moment. That was perfect. We'll just leave it at that. Even though their intention was for it to be, full face. So they realised, that's the right one. So they must have been able to, they must have looked at that. I imagine that would have been sort of
that would be the last night, right? Last night of filming.
That would have been late at night, right? And you could tell she was exhausted.
Absolutely.
And they sort of been through the mill.
They were essentially sleeping rough the whole time, apart from that one night when, like I said, after that rainy day where they let them go to the hotel. But they said to them, you can have a meal, but you do not shower. You can't shower. We need you as dirty as you are, uncomfortable as you are, and you come back out there. So everyone will be...
Continuity, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that last cigarette, I know, Paul, you say that bit about Mike rocking backwards and forwards, but the moment where he's like, we're still alive, found cigarettes at the bottom of my bag. As an ex-smoker, I can feel that sort of like joy. It's like, okay, I've got a reason to live for a little while. There's some cigarettes there. Okay. This is definitely a 20th century film because all three of them constantly smoking. Constantly. Yeah, nowadays, they would have gone, no, you can't be doing that.
That goes hand in hand with Heather's performance, though, because it's just after Mike's one where she's like, I'm going to put my gloves on my hands. I'm going to put my gloves on my hands. And it's such that feels absolutely natural. That is fear. That is fear right there. That's like proper fear, not an acted fear.
Yeah. And she gets her hair caught in her bag in that moment as well. It's so honest and genuine a moment, and she just is so pathetic, and she sort of slumps, and then Mike comes over to help her. It's like, well, look, it's just natural, but it works so well. She took a real moment and incorporated it into the performance.
Yeah, it just makes it feel genuine, doesn't it?
It does. What's the things for you, Jamie, that on that first watch that you've said like you really didn't like it? So obviously time changes things a little bit, but why was it that at that time you really took against it?
I don't know. We're talking a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I can't remember watching it, but maybe it was just I had really high expectations. Sometimes when you go in expecting something to be amazing and it doesn't fit that. Maybe I was expecting, because it's a film that's so masterful and not showing you anything. Maybe I was expecting something to be shown to me, or expecting jump scares and things like that. It doesn't go for the cheap jump scare at all.
No,
it doesn't. You got the end, but then there's nothing in it that sort of feels cheap scare tactic wise.
No.
Maybe I was young and foolish then.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's a totally primal fear experience, and I think it does require something of its audience to actually engage with it. You don't just sit there and wait for the bang
immersion.
Yeah.
If you aren't bothered by supernatural things as well, then if you don't buy into it, I can see why you might think, well, what's all the fuss about?
I don't mean you have to necessarily buy into the thing that is there. It could be, even if it's not a witch, it's just there is something there fucking with you, and that it is. Whether you want to be supernatural, whether you want to, you could have just been a random guy who lives in the woods, and people who come and fuck with him, he kills you. Like, it could be something along those. It doesn't have to be the supernatural witch that they're going to look out for. I think that's how I almost look at it as well.
Yeah. Speaking about that, you know that the original ending was supposed to be the two fishermen were supposed to be fucking them all along, and they were going to be in the house.
Is that right?
Yes, and they were like, "No, we can't do that."
I mean, I think not putting an answer on the ending helps, but again, that kind of seems more logical than anything else. But
I think it completely makes sense because all along they haven't been provided with any answers.
No,
and it just feels right.
Yeah, it does feel right, and it's they shot 4 or 5 different endings, and none of them look as good as that. Just the simple one of Mike standing still facing the corner. That's just a terrifying image, and what it represents based on the stories we've heard from Rustin Parr. Every other take they hung the stick figures in the basement for it, and it's like that is too much. The choice not to opt for that and strip it right back down and just go with him facing the corner, perfect. Less is so often more, and definitely with this film, less is more. That's why 20 hours of footage cut down to a 2.5 hour festival cut down to an 80-minute tight film. Just superb filmmaking. And to go to your point, Paul, this is absolutely the inspiration for why I wanted to make any sort of films as well. Because I remember at that time having the camera and being like, I'm going to make my own Halloween film, and I started making it, and obviously it was shit. But you've got the camera, so let's do it. Let's get creative. You don't need a budget, and it's a shame that more films have. We've said it a few times, and it feels wrong to say it, that this is a lightning in a bottle film, because I think that a lot of studios probably had that mentality, and they were like, we're not going to give little bursaries out to filmmakers to go out and make these sorts of films, because that was a one-off, and they need to snap out of that mindset and just give a little bit of money to lots of fledgling start-up productions and see what they can do with it, because lightning in a bottle that's a cop-out. Other people can create some beautiful stuff too. It won't be quite that, but there's more talent out there who can go and be ingenious with the way that they make their films.
Yeah, I feel like if you gave this film any more money, it'd actually not be as good, because it might try and go over the top with stuff. If you're making it with the basics, it makes it more realistic. And it's all these B films, kind of, it works, but I feel like if you did go out and give a load of people 50 grand to go make another film, everyone would try and remake Blair Witch, and that is the problem. You can't remake it. It happened. You'd have to think of your new own idea, and you have to think of all of that. And I think that's probably why studios didn't, because it's like, how many people tried to recreate Blair Witch? You can't. You have to do it again, but you have to do it completely different.
Well, they tried. They like you say, it spawned this whole. Okay, there's precursors like Ghostwatch and a few other things, but like this really spawned the found footage horror film and that space that we got. And there've been a couple of okay entries, but nothing captured this brilliance, because everything was aligned. Like every other found footage feels fake. I haven't seen a single found footage film, even though there's been some good ones. They all feel performed. The immersion is lost. So it's just like, well, how good is this horror film as opposed to how good is the immersion of it?
I think it's also more to make the film realistic. Like, this film is realistic, and that's what makes it scary. If this film was more supernatural, it wouldn't be realistic, and it would probably be quite shit. Like, it walks a very fine line.
What is in this film, performance aside, like from what you said, Paul, what's the moment in this film where it just about stretches your believability, or what you're willing to accept might happen? I don't mean an acting moment. Just the circumstance.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That's a question for anyone.
I don't think there's anything in there that stretches it. That's why it does it so well, because even if you're going to the end and you get the moment of them standing in the corner of the room, we've had this story about some serial killer who used to put his people in the corner of the room while he killed the other person. And it's like, you could just be experiencing that. It could not even be a witch in the forest. It could just be a man. Yeah. And that's what's great, because you don't know.
It doesn't actually tell you, and that's probably more logical, but if someone's fucking with you, and that's what's scary.
Yeah.
The children's voices. That's the most unbelievable. Because why would so many children be in the forest?
Or someone impersonating children.
Yeah. It's the spirits of the kids that were murdered by Rustin Parr.
Yeah, that's how I interpret it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They apparently they had to stop shooting every now and again because people would cycle through on their bikes and everything.
Well, it was so close to the roads. Seeing some of the behind-the-scenes footage, it's insane. Like, there was one point where they couldn't, because they had a Jeep, they had one walkie-talkie with them and one with the crew that they would use from time to time, and they had a safety word, which was taco. And when they said that, it meant they were breaking out of character.
Yeah.
And they were doing it, and they weren't getting any response from the directors because something had happened. So they just were like, fuck this. They just went out onto the road, and they were like, there's footage of them just filming themselves out on the road, out of character.
Could it be argued that some films, it's about the time, place, when they were released? Because this film was at 97, I think, when they filmed it, and because it's such a low budget film, it's taken a long route to get into theatre.
Yeah.
By the time it gets into the theatre, it's 1999.
Yeah.
It's potential end of world scenario. It's
exactly
paranoia. It's building up on everything. So it's almost like it was released at the sort of optimal moment to really maximize on scaring the hell out of its audience.
Yeah, it was.
Because as an audience, we were sort of almost primed.
So many terrible things were happening in 1999 as well. It did feel like the fucking end of the world. And it is
all the ducks lined up.
Yeah, it is the end of that videotape era as well. That's why that and The Ring coming out when they did is so interesting, because both, like, the crucial component to their release was that format, that videotape format as well. And I believe that their intention was, when they were going to release the film, they wanted to just market it like tapes with no names on it, just blank VHS tapes, blank cardboard copies as well. That would have been very good. Have you seen, let me just bring up two films, one that came just before Blair Witch, and it only really got fame because Blair Witch was released, and one that came shortly afterwards. One is called The Last Broadcast, which, if it's okay, and it's kind of what the Blair Witch folk were going for, which is that they do a sort of talking heads. This footage was lost. These people went out into the woods, and it has about half hour of footage from in the woods. That came out before Blair Witch. It's not as good, largely because it all feels staged and a bit performative, and the ending is a bit over the top. The second one, and this one really speaks to, it only had its value on that very short amount of time when you could rent it in a VHS store in Blockbusters, and it came out just as that was going out of style, and it's called The Last Horror Movie.
Oh, yes.
Have you seen it? British film.
Yes.
Paul, Adam, the film begins, you don't know what you're getting. Well, you do. It says The Last Horror Movie. You rent it, and you're watching 5 minutes of a pretty crappy, schlocky horror film, American horror film set in a diner, and then you get a man like this just talking to camera, and he's saying, so you thought you were getting this horror film? Well, you are, but you're getting my horror film. And he's a serial killer, and just quite normal British, English serial killer. And it relies on how much you buy his performance. It's just him, really. And he's quite good. It's a little bit stagey, but he's quite good. And it's a shame.
Sounds interesting.
It is. It's worth a watch. But again, well, I say that. But if you were to watch that now, you would have to watch it on DVD. And there's a key, JB, you may remember, there is a key thing in that film that relies on you having rented it from a video store. And it loses something which Blair Witch doesn't, which Lost Broadcast don't. But it's worth your time, and it's a shame because they
don't
that's
pass
a
it
real
on to the
time
next person because they will die.
It's that kind of. There's something like that, but not quite. It's
like at the end of films sometimes when they're like, "Why also here? Look, clean all the popcorn off the floor." And when they talk about people in the cinema, and it's like, doesn't work when you're
I'm at home. Yeah, exactly. Bill Murray at the end of Scrooge going, "Oh yeah, all the ladies on the left." It's like, I'm just here by myself, mate. I'm my lone Bill. Oh man.
One of my sort of pet hate, or it's something I typically find I would say in horror films. You can have 2/3 of a really good horror film, and then it just doesn't stick the landing. Just the final act, just it disappoints. Where it's practically when they reveal the villain or whatever it is, and the monster, and it's not scary, or it's just they run out of ideas, or whatever. But here's a good example of a film that well and truly
Yeah.
sticks that landing and ends on the most sort of impactful note that you can really imagine, which is obviously to its credit.
I mean,
it's all about keeping these films tight and in and sweet, and like, I do think if it had any longer, it would. Again, it's the whole that thing I keep saying about films just overstaying their welcome. They just lose that momentum. This film just doesn't.
That festival cut just sounds really, excessive. 2.5. I can't imagine watching.
No,
too long.
Well, I mean, I really enjoyed it because I've known the film for so long. So getting to see some more footage of these guys is great.
But that's different, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Watching that as a whole, absolutely, it just gets too much, and there's just too much. Like one of the key things that really reinforce in this cut is that how Mike and Heather have really only just met. They've only known each other a week. Like at the end, there's like, isn't it crazy that 7 days ago I didn't even know you, and now you're like the last person that I'm ever going to see, and all that sort of stuff. But they really drill that. It's interesting. I would happily make a master cut and sometimes go, oh, okay, let me watch the 2.5 hour version.
Well, is everyone happy to just go to our final thoughts and our ratings?
Yes, let's. Jamie, are you going last now then?
Yes.
Okay.
Me first then.
You first.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely solid. Holds up. It's still scary as fuck. I think it's an 8. It's never been higher than an 8 for me. And I don't think it ever will be, but I think it's wonderful filmmaking.
Why do you have it an 8 after everything you've said? I would have I was very surprised when I saw your Letterboxd score, because I was like, how have you not given this a 10 out of 10? What is it that stops it?
It just, I don't know. I just enjoy it as like a time capsule of everything, and the feelings it gives me, and it's just the experiment that it is. I think it's wonderful, but it doesn't go. I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't sing to my heart.
That's okay.
That's the thing.
All right, Adam.
I like to rewatch it now, knowing what I know about all the acting and all that side of it, and especially watching it again in a better setting.
Yes.
I think those two could really elevate it. I'm going to give it the score I gave it before. I had it 7 out of 10. It's staying as a 7 out of 10 for me.
I get that from you because also, how old were you when this came out, Adam? You were 9, so it completely was over. No, you were 5.
I was 5. Yeah.
Yeah, so you had zero awareness. Like, when was the first time you saw this film?
Probably about 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, well, there you go. That's well and true.
And then, but then since then, there's been. I mean, you've had your like I was saying to you in the last one, my Blair Witch was Paranormal Activity and all that kind of shit. So completely different level, but you know what? Like,
that's totally a Weinstein kind of move. Like, oh yeah, this thing was popular, so let's make it as obvious as we can. And Idiot still went to the cinema and lapped it up though. So
there was something charming about the couple of the first Paranormal Activities. They had something a little bit refreshing at the time.
Nope. Absolutely not. So, I've told you, it's obviously a 10 out of 10 for me. I misspoke because what I said was that it's Halloween followed by Jaws, followed by Blair Witch is not true. It's Halloween number 10, Blair Witch number 11. And the reason I fell onto that was because, similar to what you were just saying there, Jamie, for Jaws, as much as I love it, and I do, it's incredible, I always lean into the second half of that film because I'm like, get out on that boat. That's what I want to see. That boat stuff is the best cinema ever made. Everything before that, I enjoy it, but I get us out on that boat. Whereas Blair Witch, I'm there for the whole ride from the beginning. And it's everything that went into the making of it, everything behind the scenes and on the screen is absolutely perfection. Incredible experience. Jamie.
Okay. So
it's going to be interesting.
My first impression wasn't good, as I've mentioned before. So 2 stars were like 4, equate to a 4. Obviously, it has moved up since then significantly. But I was wavering on my final mark, and I thought might be influenced by some of the discussion, and I want to watch it again with my daughter, which might just solidify it even more. But I was going to go for an 8. I was
Thought you
thinking
were gonna
8
say it.
beforehand. I was thinking
okay.
8.
Were you on the border of a 9 or were you on the border of a 7? Uh-huh. I want to make a prediction, and it's that when we get to our end of year score changes, Jamie would have watched it with his daughter, and he will have, if she enjoys it, if it works for her, you will go up to a 9.
Well, don't need to wait for that. It's going up to 9 anyway.
Hey?
Yeah.
Right now.
You've changed your mind. Oh, Jesus. I thought you were settling on an 8. Oh my God, look at that.
No, it was an 8, but I think I don't think I was given enough credit. I'm surprised, Paul. I thought you were going to give it at least a 9.
It's a low score, Paul. It's a very low score for such an incredible film.
8's not a low score.
For the Blair
No,
Witch.
it's not a low score, but the way you were talking about it, I thought, well, that's nailed on for at least. I wasn't expecting a 10, but
It has such varied on Letterboxd. Like, so many people hate it. Like, you know, I've been giving it.
It is.
Yeah.
and my experiences show that. I've gone from a 4 to a 9.
I think it almost does need to capture you at the time you watch it. I don't think it's necessarily you need to watch it at an age, but you need to capture you in the right environment at the time.
As you need to buy into it.
Yeah. If you don't, then it's shit.
It needs to seep into you and affect you on a primal level.
It does. Absolutely. It does need to seep into you, and you need to resonate with it. It's one of those things, you don't go into it thinking, oh, this is a really scary film. This is a scary horror film. Go on then, scare me. It's not a challenge. It's an experience. And
I'm probably not going to mention the scare factor to Aaron. I'll just say here's a found footage.
what about if you don't even say it's that? Just say there's this documentary about this witch, and back around blind, baby.
She's gonna go back around blind into this, I tell you.
We need to hear her thoughts. We need to hear her thoughts afterwards. This is the best. So obviously, for my money, this is the best film we've ever covered on Filmbusters, which has been delightful. And it's always hard. It's always very fucking hard to talk about films that you love so much. And I feel like I could have said so much more, but it would have been like the 20-hour cut of like, yeah, we don't need all that. Just give us the highlights. But it is the best film because the only one that ever came close was The Irishman, and that was very fresh. The film had come out, and immediately reacting to it and talking about a film that had just come out, whereas this is a film that's been out for 25 years. But there's so much history and nostalgia and so much to learn about it. Delighted to have had the opportunity to talk about it as well. And I didn't realise that it was going to have this shifting in my rankings as we went into it. So I'm delighted that has been the case.
Beautiful.
Shall we place it, boys?
Let's do it.
So 7, 8, 9, 10 averages at an 8.5. So that means it's very high. It's not in the top 20, but it's in the next 20 down. So first things first, it has to go up against Invisible. Well, for me, it's better than all of these things, obviously. So Invisible Man, Paul and Adam.
It falls at the first hurdle.
What did you give Invisible Man?
I give Invisible Man.
I've given Invisible Man an 8, so I can't say it's higher.
Yeah, I gave it a 9. Yeah. So that's it. Done.
I'm pretty sure there'll be someone
Some people
who'll come on to add to it. I know that Peter loves it, so I'm pretty sure.
I really would love for this to go into the top 20 because, I mean,
it will.
Invisible Man should not, by no stretch of the imagination, be beating Blair Witch Project, and it sucks because it's also had someone else's vote on it, which is why it's going high. Scott gave it a 9, so it's even more distorted high up on the rankings. In terms of other horror films, though, just out of interest, so that's where it goes.
Scott hates the Blair Witch Project as well, so I think he'll be.
Well, there's no accounting for taste then, is there? It's below Invisible Man. It's above Judas and the Black Messiah. The only horror films on our list that are above it are Halloween 2018, which is also incorrect.
Better.
It's absolutely not. Ravenous, which doesn't really count. Doctor Sleep, which is a different kind of horror film, and I could, if it was below Doctor Sleep, I can stomach that, even though I don't personally agree, but I can stomach that. Being below Invisible Man and below Halloween 2018 is not the one.
Midsummer's there.
I suppose. Yeah, it's better than Midsummer, but again, and there's a world where Midsummer doesn't exist without Blair Witch, really, because there's some thematic things that go on there. It's the idea of people from the city folk going out into nature and the horrors of nature, which is essentially people in Midsummer as well. Nothing supernatural there.
Loneliness.
People disappearing without any account for it.
Yeah,
there you go.
And blood in rags.
Blood in rags.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think there are any pubic hair in.
No, hopefully that wasn't Josh's pubic hair tying up that bundle outside.
Who knows?
He did have very long hair, so it's entirely possible. Who is your favourite of the three? Who would you like to be friends with? Mine would be Mike.
Oh, I would say Mike.
I don't know if I actually care to be friends with any of them that much.
I have a soft spot for Mike.
Yeah, I have a very soft spot for Mike.
And that's more of you and your nostalgia for the film, Ben. I don't think anyone's watching this film going, who do I want to be friends with?
Well, I'm asking you.
I'm Josh.
You'll be friends with Josh? Yeah, Josh.
I'll be friends with
more
Heather,
you.
so she's not left out.
You do the film busters, or who would be each?
Oh, right. Well, then
Paul
I'm
will
Mike.
be Heather.
No, you're Heather, because if anyone's annoying, it's you. So
No, but also Paul's the director of the film. He's the director
Heather.
of the piece. He's got to lead us into battle, and then
He's
we
Josh,
take over and
and
ruin
I'm
it
Mike.
from him.
He's Josh,
I knew
I'm
this would
Mike.
cause friction.
No, Paul's the one who directs everything, and then me and you come along, and we ruin all of his plans. We get him lost.
You're not, Adam, you're not cool or laid back enough to be Josh, and you're not decent enough to be Mike.
I'm Heather, then I'll survive to the end.
Well,
You're dead.
If that's what you took from that ending, yes.
Wonderful.
An extra 10 minutes of life.
Yeah. One last thing, let me throw it in quickly. There is a theory that the boys killed Heather and that the whole thing was staged by the boys. Just a theory. Obviously, I don't buy into it, but it's
That's
a
that
theory
Scream
that's out
thing,
there.
innit? Like they're actually the murderers and they're fucking with her, and then
Yeah. But it just if you buy into that and that is your read, it takes a lot of magic out of it, because then you're saying that it's a performance from Mike and
that
Josh.
makes it a
which is
bit
just
of a
not the
comedy
case.
performance instead of like a.
Yeah, I know.
Right, Jamie, it's actually your special time now where you get to decide what film you want to put a rating to. We love this bit. It's all very exciting. Go on, over to you.
Right. Now, you know me. I'm not mean spirited. You know, I could be, I could be really horrible. And say I'm going to really mess with your top 10. I'm going to really sort of tear it to pieces. I'm going to take one of the ones that you really rate highly, but I don't think much of. I'm not saying that's the case with any of them. I'm just saying I could do that, but no, I'm not going to do that. I like to promote rather than demote.
You're a lover, not a fighter.
I am. So, based on what you know of me,
Yes.
based on I know, Ben, that you've listened to my appearance on the Alien Effect podcast quite recently.
Mm-hmm.
Based on some of the topics I came up with,
Yeah.
there's one film that sticks out on your list that I'm most likely to upgrade. What do you think that film is based on?
On recent conversation.
What I said on that podcast.
Oh, right, yeah, I know. Of course, I know what it is.
Don't say. Like, obviously, my go-to is The Thing all the time, but you've already given a score for The Thing.
But it's not on your podcast, so I can't.
Oh, no,
I've never
sorry.
done it.
That's the original.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, The Fly.
Territories.
Yeah, The Fly.
Oh, okay. All right. I couldn't see the
Yes.
wood for the trees there. Oh, good.
Fly.
Excellent.
Oh, that's a good reference.
Yes, it is. It's very topical on this podcast, Jamie.
Indeed. So,
What are you giving it? A
so-
10?
Yeah, I'm giving it the 10.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. Now,
High flyer.
that means it goes from being a flat out 9 on our scores to a 9.25. It was 13th, so it was in our top 20. But regardless of what we decide now, it's definitely going to go into our top 10. Oh, maybe not, maybe not. Maybe not. It's got to get past the first hurdle. So the first film at 9.25 currently is The Joker. We know where I stand on that. We know where Paul stands on that. Adam, you have
It's your choice.
the deciding vote.
See, the thing is, I think I've given The Joker a 9 on the podcast, but in real life
have.
it's an 8. And I don't think I gave The Fly an 8.
You gave it an 8.
You gave it an 8.
Yeah, a 9, sorry. So yeah, I gave it an 8. I'd argue now, if it wasn't for this stupid scoring system where you can't change anything, then...
So
It's 11. It's been kicked out.
So it's 11. It is not top 10, but Adam,
Significant, though.
when it gets to the end of this year, if you remember that you are able to change scores and affect real change, if you really feel like Joker is an 8, make that change and change the top 10, buddy.
Okay, that's a good one to remember, because I don't feel like Change the Joker would do much, but now it could do much. But
What, all these little
Indeed.
things. Just Jamie, give
But
me
who
that
do I want to
10.
impress? Do I want to impress Paul or do I want to impress Ben? That's the real question.
Impress
It's Paul's
yourself.
birthday
Peter.
week, so
Peter gave Joker a 10.
Yeah, that's true. Peter is the one who made it come up to the 10. Brought it up to the 10. All right.
Defying your co-host, Jamie.
I'm staying out of this.
Well, very good. Thank you, Jamie. I endorse that upgrade.
Right, Jamie, we've done this all out of order, and I'm assuming you are going to give us the quiz now. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Already.
Oh, wonderful.
What's the scores, Paul?
Scores are, Ben, you got 3. Me and Adam on 1.
Okay.
could walk away with it here.
It's all yours, Jamie.
These are your questions to lose, Ben.
Okay, then. So, what is the name of the town?
Burkittsville.
Burkittsville.
Cunt. That's the thing I remember. That's like one of the things I saw it come from the beginning. I was
That's too
like,
late.
remembering that. Who got that? I think that was Paul.
That Ben was just, I think. The trio visits an eccentric local woman. What is her name?
Mary.
Mary
Surname. Mary.
Brown.
Yes.
Oh, well done, Paul. Very good.
Did you just guess a random surname, Paul?
No, I remembered it. I thought I just conceived a
She had a hair
I didn't realise
like
the
a
surname
horse,
needed.
a fur, like a horse fur, all over the body.
Very good. I also like the fisherman who's like, damn 4 kids will never learn.
It's true.
Great
He's
questions.
right.
Great questions, Jamie. Love it.
Very
well
good.
done. So that leaves us on Ben. You got 4. Me on 2. Adam on 1.
Yeah.
That
I got the most
trend,
important one.
that trend will follow through the year. Very good questions, Jamie. Thank you very much.
Well, that's it, everyone. That was absolutely wonderful. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us again. It's been wonderful as always.
As always, gents.
You want to plug anything?
Well, yes. I have been on a few other podcasts recently.
Have indeed.
I would like to do a little bit of promotion for the Alien Effect podcast.
Absolutely.
Had a lovely time there, just talking about obsessions, which is a perfect topic for me. So that episode is out, and I can sort of do a little bit of promotion to say that I will be doing another episode in the not too distant future.
On the Alien Effect.
On the Alien Effect. I can't say any more than that. So Tia has sworn me to secrecy. But yes, I will be doing something else on that.
Didn't you win the recent spin?
I did.
Okay.
Yes, it might have something to do with that.
I know then.
But I'm not going to say anything more than that.
Okay.
There's more to it than that. But yes, it is partly to do with that.
We love Tia. We love the Alien Effect. What a great podcast. And it was a very good
Absolutely.
episode as well, Jamie.
Thank you very much. And there is my latest appearance on the Movie Duel podcast with my daughter, Erin. has dropped today
It has indeed.
on all good podcast providers. So that's
What films?
it's the best time travel film.
Okay.
Terminator versus Back to the Future. I chose the Terminator. She chose Back to the Future, obviously.
Wicked.
Oh, very good. I agree with you, but I know Adam doesn't, but that's fine.
Back to the Future for me as well.
Yeah.
It was a fun discussion. So
Oh, I bet it was. Can't wait to listen.
check that one out. And if you want to place your vote on Twitter, I'm not going to call it X, Twitter. Feel free to do that. I might just repost it just to make sure that it's all on your timelines.
Someone go and vote on my behalf for Terminator, please.
And that's the Movie Duel podcast, everyone. You should go check it out. It's a wonderful podcast.
It's Movie Duel, yes.
Where you can often find Jamie and the others talking.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love it. Right, everyone. That's it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you, Jamie.
Not yet.
And
We need Adam.
wait a minute. We need Adam. Forgot about that bit. There's so many little elements in this episode. Adam,
What am I
what are we
doing?
doing next?
Oh yeah, shit. Am I picking my film?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Oh shit.
I get the reveal early.
You do.
Yes,
Yeah.
you do. So I actually kind of struggling to pick a film from '94, purely because I think Ben and Paul.
99.
1999.
Yeah,
What, have you gone back to
right
94 to look for the three missing kids in the woods?
Yes, purely because I think Ben and Paul have seen nearly quite a lot of them, and they've been seen by quite a lot of us. So I wanted to pick something new. I wanted to pick something I haven't seen. And this is a film I've been meaning to watch for a while. I don't know how necessarily it's going to be with the discussion, but I think it's going to be a film that I wanted to watch. I'll bring it to the podcast. Which better way to do it? And that is Any Given Sunday.
Oh, I've never seen it, Adam. That's
Yeah,
a
it's
big blind spot.
An Al Pacino blind spot.
Pacino, yeah.
Al Pacino. Okay. That's
Nice.
exciting.
So
Love it.
Very good. Sports film, though, Paul.
It's all right.
about baseball, isn't it? I think I don't even know that.
It's about
much.
American football, I think.
Oh, it's American football. Okay.
Well, I don't
even
know.
then, no, I don't even like American football. So
Oh,
I
cool.
can dig it.
Al Pacino back on the podcast after
He's back again.
Since last time he came on was Scarecrow. I think.
yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
First
Yeah.
film since Scarecrow. Any Given Sunday. God, 1999 is a huge year. Absolutely huge.
Yeah, it's often picked out as you know as a really sort of surprisingly sort of packed year.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, "Oh, 99, that's a great year." Yeah,
With so much variety. Every film we've done so far has been incredible. I've really enjoyed every 99 film we've covered.
Good year for you.
Yeah, it is. See if it carries on with Any Given Sunday.
We shall see. Right, everyone. That's it. That's what you got next. And thank you, Jamie.
Thanks to
It's
our
been
wonderful
amazing.
Jamie. Yes.
Yeah, wonderful man.
see you later.
See you later, everyone.
peace
Bye,
out,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye-bye.